There's a walk I take 3 evenings a week to see two old friends of mine, Nathan and his wife, about 8 blocks from my house. 8 blocks doesn't sound like much until the day feels like 8 miles. I'm Robert. I'm 83, and I still make that walk. But I want to tell you honestly, there was a stretch of years where I stopped going, not because I didn't want to see them, because my legs ached by the time I got there. My feet felt swollen and heavy, and I'd sit down at their table already exhausted, thinking about the walk back before I'd even finished my coffee. Has that ever happened to you? Has a visit to someone you love started to feel like a chore your own body was putting up a fight against? For a long time, I told myself that was just what getting older looked like. Less visiting, smaller world. I know a lot of folks my age quietly accept that shrinking as inevitable, not because they want to, but because nobody ever told them there was anything else to try. Here's what changed my thinking. High blood sugar, sustained over years, doesn't just affect your feet during the day. It keeps a low simmer of inflammation running through your body around the clock, including while you sleep. And sleep is exactly when your body does most of its repair work on nerves and small blood vessels. If that repair window is being disrupted night after night by inflammation and restlessness, the nerves and circulation in your legs and feet get less of a chance to recover than they should. Researchers studying diabetic neuropathy have documented this connection between chronic inflammation, poor sleep, and slower nerve repair for years. It's a well-established piece of the puzzle, even if it rarely comes up in a rushed appointment. That's the part your doctor almost never has time to mention. Not because he's hiding it, because an 8 or 10-minute visit barely covers your labs and your prescriptions, let alone a conversation about what happens to your nerves while you sleep. I still carry 2 grocery bags in each hand from the truck to the kitchen without setting them down halfway. I climb the 11 steps to my porch without grabbing the rail. Those are small things. At 83, they don't feel small to me at all. I want to tell you about a man named Osvaldo Reyes, 71 years old, retired auto mechanic out of Tampa, Florida. Osvaldo wrote to a group I'm part of and said something that stuck with me. I used to fix cars all day standing on concrete. Now my own legs feel like the concrete. He'd been diabetic for over 15 years, careful with his medication, careful with his doctor's advice, but the evening heaviness in his legs kept him home more and more, missing his weekly card game with the men he'd played with for 2 decades. That's the cost nobody talks about. It's not just the number on the meter. It's the friends you stop seeing. If your feet burn at night, or go numb, or feel cold no matter how many socks you wear, please don't ignore it. I almost did, and I'm 80 years old. For years I told myself it was just age, the tingling, the heaviness in my legs climbing the stairs. But it wasn't age. It was my blood sugar quietly damaging the nerves and the circulation in my legs, and almost nobody warned me in time. If you let it keep going, those little signals turn into something you can't undo. I wasn't willing to lose my feet or my independence. So I started doing one thing every single day to help support healthy blood sugar and protect my legs. I'll show you exactly what in this video. And if you want the simple support I personally use, there's a free presentation linked in the description below. The evening habit I started, about 6 weeks before I noticed a real difference, was this. A small glass of tart cherry juice, about 8 ounces, roughly an hour before bed. I know that sounds almost too simple to matter, but tart cherries are unusually concentrated in a group of compounds called anthocyanins, the deep red pigments that also happen to have documented anti-inflammatory properties. Research on tart cherry juice, including studies published in sports nutrition journals looking at recovery and inflammation markers, has found measurable reductions in inflammatory markers among people who drank it consistently. Tart cherries are also one of the few natural food sources containing melatonin, the hormone your body uses to regulate sleep. Put those 2 things together, lower inflammation, better sleep signaling, and you get more of that overnight repair window working the way it's supposed to, for your nerves and your small blood vessels both. Now, I want to be honest with you, because a single glass of juice is not a complete system, and I'd be misleading you if I stopped there. Alongside the tart cherry juice, I added 2 other things to my evening. First, I stopped looking at any bright screen for the last 30 minutes before bed. Bright light late at night interferes with your body's own melatonin production, working against the very thing the cherry juice is trying to support. Second, I keep my bedroom on the cooler side, somewhere around 65 degrees. A cooler room is associated with deeper, more consistent sleep cycles, which again feeds back into that repair window your nerves depend on. Tart cherry juice, no bright screens before bed, a cooler room. 3 habits, maybe 15 minutes of thought each evening, working together as a system rather than any one of them working alone. I should mention, because people ask, that not all cherry juice is the same. I look specifically for unsweetened tart cherry juice, sometimes labeled as Montmorency cherry juice, rather than the sweetened cherry drinks or cocktails sold in the same aisle. Added sugar would work directly against the whole point of the habit, undoing with one hand what the anthocyanins are trying to do with the other. It costs a little more than the sweetened versions, but an 8-ounce glass most nights comes out to only a few dollars a week, which is a small price for something that's become part of how I close out my day. I also learned, somewhat by accident, that timing matters almost as much as the habit itself. In the first couple of weeks, I was drinking it right at bedtime, sometimes even after brushing my teeth, and I didn't notice much. Once I moved it back to a full hour before lying down, giving my body time to actually process it before I tried to fall asleep, that's when the difference in how I slept became more noticeable. Small adjustment, but it mattered. Some nights now I sleep straight through until morning without once getting up to shake feeling back into my feet. And 3 evenings a week, I still make that 8-block walk to sit at Nathan's table, and I don't spend the whole visit thinking about the walk home. Osvaldo told our group that after building a similar evening routine alongside his existing medication and regular visits with his doctor, the heaviness in his legs by evening started easing, enough that he made it back to his card game 2 weeks running for the first time in over a year. I share his experience as one man's story, not a guarantee. Every case of diabetes carries its own history, and nothing here replaces what your doctor has you doing. I think about this a lot. The people my age who are still walking to see the people they love, and the ones who've quietly stopped, telling themselves it's just age, just how things go now. I don't think it's mostly luck that separates them. I think it's the 15 minutes in the evening that nobody else sees, the ones you choose to spend on yourself. Or don't. It also took me some time to stop measuring progress by a single walk. Some evenings, even after weeks of the routine, my legs still felt heavier than others. Weather, stress, a bad night's sleep the night before, all of it plays a part. And diabetes rarely improves in a straight line. What I paid attention to instead was the average over a month. How many of those 8-block walks I made without dreading them compared to before. That average kept improving, slowly, even on weeks where any single evening looked no different than it used to. Please don't change or stop any medication because of anything I've shared here. This is meant to work alongside your doctor's plan, never instead of it. I want to close with something Osvaldo said to me that I haven't been able to shake. He told me the hardest part of those missed card games wasn't the cards at all. It was the quiet ride home in his own head afterward, wondering if this was just how the rest of his life was going to look, smaller and smaller each year. That's the real cost of legs that ache and feet that swell by evening. It's not just the physical discomfort. It's the slow shrinking of a life around a body that stopped cooperating. I think that's worth naming plainly, because I don't think enough people say it out loud. If any of this sounds like your evenings, tell me in the comments how far you can comfortably walk right now. I read every one. And if you want more of this, the real mechanisms behind what's happening in your body, subscribe, because that's exactly what we do here every week. If you made it this far, you already understand more about your own legs than most people your age ever will. That matters. You know now that the burning, the numbness, the cold feet, they trace back to one thing: blood sugar slowly working against your nerves and circulation. And you know the goal isn't a miracle. It's protecting your ability to stand, to walk, to stay independent. That's why, alongside everything I showed you today, I use a simple daily support to help keep my blood sugar in a healthy range, so my legs keep carrying me where I want to go. I put the free presentation in the description below. Go watch it. And as always, keep working with your doctor. This supports your routine. It doesn't replace it.